Hello, everyone. We will be exploring the development of a comprehensive school-wide behavioral succession plan. This presentation aims to help develop a positive learning environment for all students. We must start by asking, why is behavior management a school-wide priority? Behavioral management creates a safe, structured, and supportive learning environment. It reduces disruptions, which allows for increased instructional time. It encourages social and emotional growth and responsibility to students. So, what happens when behavioral expectations are unclear or inconsistently applied? You have increased disruptions and increased disciplinary referrals. You have higher teacher stress and burnout, and you have disengagement among students due to inconsistent consequences. So, today's purpose is to outline a systematic approach to set clear expectations, define behaviors, and ensure school wide consistency through a positive behavioral system. Defining and communicating clear behavioral expectations is foundational to a positive school culture. School-wide consistency is the key here. Expectations should remain the same across grade levels, classrooms, and shared spaces. All staff need to be aligned in the teaching, modeling, and reinforcing of behaviors. Some examples of the shared expectations could be an acronym for your school's mascot or something that resembles the school. One example that a school that I used to work at uses is SOAR, and that's the S stands for like showing greatness, and the O stands for offering kindness. Or they could be as simple as be kind, be respectable. Regardless, these should be in all shared spaces, including the hallways, lunchrooms, and playgrounds. This is an all hands on deck for all staff. Grade level leaders need to ensure that these expectations are being carried out in their grade to transition the expectations from kindergarten to fifth grade. One way of modeling the expectations could be through a behavioral expectation matrix. Behavioral expectation matrix is a visual guide that outlines the expected behaviors, and we'll look at an example of one on the following slide. Research by Bradshaw and other researchers shows that schools that implement school-wide positive behavioral systems see significant reductions in problem behaviors. So one way to assure this is at the school-wide level is to implement a behavioral expectation matrix. The matrix serves as that guide for both the students and the staff to ensure consistency in the behavior expectations throughout all different areas of the school. Here's an example from PBIS rewards of what a matrix could possibly look like. To implement the matrix, you would need to collaborate with your grade level leaders, other teachers, and support staff to create a user-friendly matrix altogether. You need to train new teachers and students each year on behavioral expectations and review those periodically throughout the year. A positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS, framework involves aligning the expectations and interventions across all school levels. This alignment ensures that all staff members are equipped to support students' positive behavior effectively. Benefits to this is that it's proactive and it's a school-wide reinforcement of those unified expectations, and they receive rewards for their good behavior. The resources needed here for success include training of teachers, counselors, and administration to make sure everybody's aligned in the same guides that your school would like to have in place. You need time for this planning and the training. You need clear documentation of your behavior expectations. Again, that can be your matrix or it can be your acronym for your school's mascot. And then you need an incentive system program for positive reinforcement. In researching PBIS, you can find many different forms to best tailor your school's needs. With all of the positives, we also have to talk about the disruptive behaviors. Identifying and categorizing disruptive behaviors is crucial. Knowing minor behaviors like talking out of turn differ from major behaviors like aggression. Understanding the distinction here allows for appropriate responses. You must also look at differentiation. Younger students have impulse control that requires more redirection and scaffolding. where there's also a clear distinction between skill deficits and intentional defiance. Research emphasizes that exclusionary practices are ineffective, highlighting the need for preventative and supportive strategies. So the big concern here is inconsistency. Why does inconsistency occur? Inconsistencies in behavior management often stem from teacher burnout and lack of vertical planning. Student behavior problems are a top source of the job stress for teachers, and they lead to teacher burnout and higher exit rates. To address this, we must provide adequate support and resources to the educators. So when we look at how to handle behaviors, you can look at it from a tiered approach, with tier 1 being preventative strategies at a school-wide level. These have clear rules, that positive reinforcement and modeling from the teachers. This is for everyone. Tier 2 moves into an individualized intervention with restorative practices and conversations, maybe even some behavior contracts. And then tier 3 moves into an intensive individualized support where there's parent meetings, counseling involved, counseling referrals, and administrative involvement. This framework ensures that all students receive the level of support that they need to succeed. Shifting from punitive measures like detentions and suspensions to more teachable moments and relationship building is the best practices here, and that's called restorative practices, as mentioned earlier. Lodi and other researchers discuss using restorative practices to make a difference in kids' lives and give them value with their teacher and others within the school building. So how do we implement this? We implement this with professional learning walks and coaching sessions for reinforcement. The ongoing professional learning walks allow for fidelity and to provide feedback on the successes, while the coaching sessions are to reinforce effective strategies for behavior management. So we talked about the inconsistency, but the challenges to inconsistency across the school include that teacher burnout piece from managing those challenging behaviors daily, but also a lack of vertical alignment from the different expectations across the grade levels. And then that comes from a limited collaboration time for staff to discuss effective behavior management strategies. So some solutions here include scheduled vertical planning meetings with grade level leaders and admin, and even including the counselors during that time, and then some professional learning walks to observe and provide feedback on classroom behavior management, and then increased administration support to ensure consistency and enforcement of these new strategies. It's also really important to talk about how family and community engagement plays a role into behavior. We should look at parents as partners. Engaging families in the community is vital here. When parents and caregivers are involved in reinforcing behavioral expectations, students receive consistent messages both at home and school about the effectiveness of the behavior plan. So some ways that you can engage parents are providing parent workshops. Some parents just don't know what they don't know. And then also having behavior contracts between the parents, the teacher, and the student. And then utilizing digital tools to allow for communication more effectively between the teacher and the parent. So how do we know this is successful if we don't have data to drive our improvement here? Collecting and analyzing behavior data allows the team to identify trends and make informed decisions. The data-driven approach ensures that the interventions are effective and that the team can adjust strategies as needed to support student success. So to do this, the best way to do it is through a plan, do, study, and act. So the plan is for setting clear behavioral goals. The do is to implement the behavior management strategies that we have discussed. And then the study is to analyze behavioral data and adjust that as needed. And then we need to act on it. We need to make data-driven changes to the succession plan. So developing a sustainable implementation plan involves having a step-by-step rollout. So you need to have and develop a behavioral expectation matrix, provide staff training on the PBIS and restorative practices, introduce the expectations to the students and make sure they understand those expectations very clearly. Monitor the progress using data, and then adjust your strategies continuously based on the feedback from your teachers, from your parents, from all stakeholders here. So our long-term commitment to fidelity here, we have to have dedicated time for those meetings to make sure that we have vertical alignment going on, to make sure that there is a plan in place for the teachers, to make sure our leads are having full implementation across the board, and to support the system for teachers. And then we can have a behavioral succession plan that is completely effective. So in conclusion, developing a school-wide behavioral succession plan requires collaboration, consistency, and commitment from all staff at the school. By working together, you can create a positive and supportive environment that fosters student success. I really encourage each of you to take an active role in this initiative. My next steps for you here is to find a way to implement some vertical planning to make sure that you can create this plan, to make sure that you have the steps in place, and then go about it and conduct some learning walks, restructure your PBIS alignment. And my final thought for you is that know that this is not just a set of rules. It's your commitment to creating a positive and structured, supportive learning environment for not only just your students, but also your teachers and all else involved. Thank you for your attention today, and I welcome any and all questions or comments that you may have in the comment box below.